Hello and welcome to the Daily Climate Show. Coming up today, the UN warns that climate, biodiversity and degradation goals will soon be out of reach unless the financing of nature-based solutions more than doubles. The Prince and Princess of Wales are in Boston ahead of his Earthshot prize ceremony, but their visit is overshadowed by the palace race row. And the Mr. Men and Little Miss family has a new member. Find out why she's the most environmentally aware yet. Hello and welcome to the Daily Climate Show, where we track the changes to our world and interrogate some of the potential solutions to the climate crisis. Now, the United Nations has warned climate, biodiversity and degradation goals will be out of reach unless investment in nature-based solutions is drastically ramped up. Now, before we go any further, what we mean by nature-based solutions is the sustainable management and use of natural features and processes to tackle socio-environmental challenges. Currently, about £127 billion is invested in nature-based solutions around the world each year, but the UN says this needs to more than double to £317 billion a year by 2025. That's about the size of the entire Danish economy. At the moment, just 17% of this investment comes from private companies, but the UN says this must change if we are to hit climate targets. And it's calling for the private sector to combine net zero with nature-positive investments. The report also calls for an end to climate-harmful subsidies from the government, which are estimated to be 3 to 7 times the size of investments in nature-based solutions. Our science correspondent, Thomas Moore, joins us now. Hi, Thomas. So things have to change, the UN says.
Well, as ever, money can be good or bad. And so that's definitely true when it comes to nature. So on one side, government subsidies for things like cattle ranching and soy production can result in deforestation in the Amazon. But on the other, incentives for farmers to farm with nature can bring wildlife back onto the fields, store more carbon in the soil and so on. But this report says governments can't do all this on their own. They're encouraging private companies to step up. So they need to look at their supply chains to make sure they're sustainable, make sure they're not buying beef or palm oil from rainforest areas, to make sure that they're investing in nature-positive ideas such as replanting seagrass meadows or restoring peat bogs. The problem is that politicians often see nature-based solutions as soft. So while they were queuing up to be seen at the climate conference in Egypt, there will be very few at the big biodiversity conference the UN is holding in Montreal starting next week. This is called COP15, and it's trying to get global agreement for a blueprint for conservation. And it is much needed because right now the planet is suffering the largest loss of life since the dinosaurs.
OK, Thomas, thank you so much. So, as Thomas was saying there, COP15 starts next week. It's a bit like buses. You wait all year for one COP summit and then 2 come along at once. First, COP27 in Egypt last month, and now this one. Don't be confused by the numbers, though. Its official and slightly long-winded title is the 15th Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. So while last month's conference in Sharm el-Sheikh was the 27th summit to focus on climate change, this is the 15th to focus on bringing the Earth's biodiversity under control and to start to turn things around. It was actually scheduled to take place in Kunming in China 2 years ago. The first part took place online in October of last year, where the Kunming Declaration was signed, committing to put the world's biodiversity on a path to recovery by 2030. Now, although China retains its presidency, the second part of the meeting has moved to the Canadian city of Montreal and will take place from next Monday, the 5th of December, until Saturday, the 17th of December. And we will, of course, keep you right across the latest developments throughout the summit. Now, also making climate news today, a ban on building onshore wind farms since 2016 has added £800 million to household bills this winter. That's according to new research. The Energy and Climate Change Intelligence Unit says that without the ban, enough turbines could have been built to power 1.5 million homes this winter and cut the need for gas power plants. India has taken over its role as chair of the G20 leading economies today and says it will put climate top of the agenda. The country has made significant moves towards its climate goals, but is still one of the world's top emitters. Experts expect India to use its one-year presidency to push for more money to help developing countries transition to clean energy and adapt to a warming world. The French President Emmanuel Macron has criticised sweeping new subsidies on American-made green technology while on a visit to the US. The Biden administration says its signature climate law will go a long way to curb climate change, but the EU says the tax credits go against international trade law and will harm European companies. Well, the French president is not the only one making a trip across the Atlantic this week. The Prince and Princess of Wales are in Boston ahead of the awards ceremony for Prince William's Earthshot Prize. But their visit has been somewhat overshadowed by the Buckingham Palace race row. Our royal correspondent Laura Bundock is travelling with them.
Well, Boston is facing significant climate change challenges. Neighbourhoods here are under threat as a result of the city's rising sea levels. They have become vulnerable to climate change-caused flooding, to storm surges, to more hot days. In fact, scientists predict that within 80 years, the sea around this city will have risen by over 3 feet. Such is the scale of the problem. Emergency solutions are being sought, and here in Boston they're looking at nature-based solutions. One of the finalists of last year's Earthshot Prize, Prince William's big environmental awards, one of those finalists was a company called Living Seawalls, and what this company does is create panels which mimic natural habitat formations, things like rock pools and mangroves. These panels can then be fitted to existing waterfront structures or attached to new ones, and the idea is that they promote marine biodiversity. It is a natural solution. Other things taking place in this city are in an area called Somerville. Greentown Labs is this huge collaboration bringing together green startups with investors and also with big corporates as well. And the idea is they come up with more solutions to climate change. This is the largest climate startup in North America, and it is big business. Greentown Labs have in total managed to raise $4 billion of funding. So these are just two of the examples and two of the places the Prince and Princess of Wales are visiting here in Boston, two very different solutions to the climate change crisis that is facing this city.
And don't forget our weekly climate show with Tom Heap will be on this weekend, when Tom will be looking at the issue of hydrogen power. You can watch the show here on Sky News at 3:30 in the afternoon or at 7:30 in the evening on Saturday and Sunday. And if you have any questions about climate change that you want answered, send them all to us using this QR code and we will try to answer as many as we can on Tom's show. Right, before you go, let's just leave you with the news that there's a new little miss in town and she's the most environmentally aware yet. Little Miss Wasteless repairs the holes in her socks instead of throwing them away. She reuses her carrier bags for her shopping, doesn't buy more than she needs, and collects rainwater to water her garden. She's been launched with the aim of encouraging children to be more engaged with sustainability and talk to their parents about being more green at home. She is the 95th Mr. Men and Little Miss character to be created since Roger Hargreaves created the brand in 1971 with the launch of, can you guess? Mr. Tickle. That's all from me, Kimberly Leonard, for today. Thanks very much for watching.